Whilst in the United States, I was desperate to check out a gunmaker. Obviously, I'm familiar with the work of Mossberg, Ruger and the gang, who all make fantastic utilitarian tools. I wanted to see what some of the high-end makers had to offer. So after a few emails back and forth, we had a day booked in at the Connecticut Shotgun Manufacturing Company. And boy, this place was a lot to take in. The factory is obviously in Connecticut, in the town of New Britain, and the company itself is surrounded by mystique and rumour, which had me really excited to look around. Founded by Tony Galazan, who studied engineering before entering the world of gunmaking, this place is wild. They're not scared to try new things, and from the company's inception, they have never stopped innovating. The range of guns they now build is mind-blowing, as is the range of price points, from a few $100 shotgun up to a six-figure showpiece, with a range in the middle with prices designed to compete with European guns. Walking into their huge factory, I definitely didn't expect this beautiful gun room. Where we met Lou, the head of sales and marketing at Connecticut Shotgun. We'll come back to the gun room to look at their guns in a minute, but for now, let's head into the factory.
This is like the Willy Wonka, kind of when you go down the hallway and it starts getting the original Willy Wonka.
Yeah, I don't know how many kids do you bring in here?
Yeah, right. Kids at a different level.
Kids.
These are toys for big boys and girls. And so you kind of went through a door, you're in a very proper gun room.
Yeah.
And then you just open the door and here we are.
These are barrels.
Yeah.
Ready to be born.
Yeah.
What is the steel they're made of?
I think it's 4420. We take a steel bar that's not hollow yet, and we deep hole drill a hole right down the middle.
And then mill the outside afterwards.
And then we shape the outside on this lathe. Monoblock design that's pressed in, and I want to call to your attention this notch. Once this barrel's put in, it's cross pinned and then brazed for 3 levels of strength.
Let me tell you now that this factory is huge. So I apologize at this point for the intensity of this video.
So basically we rough out all the stocks on these CNC machines. And basically these are all different flavors. If you get fitted for a gun, for example, we'll find one of the 18 primitives here. Once it's roughed out, now it gets hand fitted.
Okay. So every gun is individually fitted up.
That's how we do it.
And after this will then go off and be engraved.
Yeah.
And finished off.
The barrels have been joined to the action and so forth. And now he's going to find all the high spots and he's going to just completely hand fit everything.
Everything is hand fitted.
Yeah.
How many stocks get fitted?
Everything's fitted.
Everything.
Everything. Sometimes you got to hit 70 dimensions. Like for example, this guy here, he's a pretty much off the shelf kind of stock dimensions. You know, in instinctive shooting, I think it's more, you know, if a guy is target shooting, and if he has a gun that doesn't fit him well, I don't think he'll do very well. But a guy upland hunting, I think he'll probably...
See, interestingly, I would say the opposite.
Yeah, you might be
You
right.
know, with clays, you can wrap yourself in before the shot, can't you? Well, certainly with sporting and trap discipline. So as long as it's somewhere close, you can manipulate.
Yeah, but an upland
But an
hunting...
instinctive shot, you need to look where it shoots.
But they're 15-yard shots most of the time, too, on top on top of, you know, your flesh.
How do you finish your stocks?
We like to use Troil. We do a London finish.
And it's a mixture of what you use, like walnut and Turkish.
Yeah,
cast.
but to each their own. We do have California English walnut.
California English walnut?
Yeah.
Meaning English walnut, the tree from California.
Yeah, they brought over, you know, the cuts from the back in the 1890s. You know, they spliced them onto our calico walnut trees. What they did is they took like little pieces of tree trunk, not the tree, the branches, and they spliced it and they put it like
you
in
get the California root with an English top.
Yeah.
What was their thinking at the time? For wood or for fruit?
Oh no, it was for wood. For the figure.
They had a lot of time back then.
Yeah. Here's the barrel lapping machines.
Barrel honing.
Yeah, there's honing and lapping in the chokes.
Arguably their most famous gun is the American A10. So whilst we were back in the gun room for a coffee, Lou talked me through Connecticut shotgun and the A10.
The guy who kind of started this all in 1975, Anthony Galazan, that's where the name Galazan comes from. He created a company called Connecticut Shotgun. So Connecticut Shotgun, in that regard, there's really a couple of things going on there. We do repairs on some kinds of guns, like the Winchester Model 21s, but we also are purveyors of fine shotguns, you know, the used guns. We were had the three Parker Invincible guns. So, you know, the rarest of the rare guns we buy, sell, and trade, expensive guns. And then we also make side-by-side and over and under shotguns. Really, we cut our teeth making side-by-side shotguns. We took over the Fox line from Savage. We took over the Model 21 line from Winchester. We make a Model 21, although we don't call it Winchester. And then we make our own brand of side-by-side shotguns called the RBLs, and I'm sure I'm missing something. And now we're making over and under competition shotguns, which we're really excited about. And that's really the future of Connecticut Shotgun, is making, you know, guns for sporting clays,
G1s and A10s.
So, and A10s, right.
And on that segue, and the A10 is probably your most famous gun worldwide. It's the one I knew about before any of the other stuff. Should we have a look at one? Well, how much is an A10? Let's start that one.
An A10 starts at about $15,000.
And that's for a plain side lock gun. Has that got engraving
Well,
in 15,000?
when you say side lock and plain, you know, it's a kind of an oxymoron in a sense, but for $15,000 you get a rose and scroll. It's laser engraved and it's hand chased.
This is only 40 grand.
Yeah, it's a lot of gun for the money, and if you compare any other side lock outside of, you know, Turkey or something like that.
When did this start? When did the A10 start?
In 2010.
And it's a full side lock, and it's very similar to something else, or is that coincidence, or is that planned?
Well, yes and no. I mean, it's coincidence in a sense that this gun really is an amalgam of all the best ideas we've seen out there. For example, I want to call your attention to the bridle. If you look at a lot of the other guns, the bridle here has got standoffs where if these screws come loose, the whole mechanism falls apart. The big advantage of this bridle, as you can see, it's integral into the lock plate. So it's impossible for this bridle to ever come loose and give you a problem in the field. So this is the most robust, rigid design that we found out there. One of the things you do get when you buy this gun is you get peace of mind, because everything in this gun has been a time-proven design that's been around for a long time. When people state that I may have copied people, I will tell you this. This is a laser welded rib. The barrels are laser welded, and that's kind of comes from the ears.
There's going to be some issues there in my head.
No, there's actually no issues. It's a far superior design.
Is it a cold process then, or?
Yeah, it's even though it's obviously to fuse metal together, you have to get to a temperature, but it's so quick and it's so precise that it fuses it together. And the only gun company that I know of that does this besides this is Fabry.
You've got a balancing weight system here, because your rib and the way that this clips up is all a bit different.
This rib you can put a weight balancing system in there. And I do that only on the 12 gauge guns, not the if the customer requests it. But I don't do it on the sub gauge guns, because people are looking for, you know, lighter guns. They're not going to be hanging.
You're not selling many 20 bore sporters.
Yeah, right. They're not going to be hanging tungsten weights to get the gun back to 10 or 15 pounds. What I do is a lot of pigeon guns in 12 gauge and 28 gauge combos on the big frame. They want a gun when they enter the race in 12 gauge and 28 gauge. They want a gun they can shoot in both events. And because they're used to a heavy gun,
the feels, the hands, the work.
Exactly, and it's balanced exactly like. So if he's blindfolded, because it's a mental game. If he's blindfolded and shooting, he doesn't want to think, is this the 28 gauge gun or is this the 12 gauge gun? He's just trying to get that bird down. That design, I think, is far superior. I've seen some cross-bolt designs out there. You've seen this design around, but you've never seen it with that large of cross-sectional area. Again, it's designed.
It's quite nice where it's not round.
Yeah,
Makes
it's not
sense.
round. And one of the advantages to it, there's the shape of it, the Galazan lockup shape. One of the advantages to it is when the gun eventually does start to wear, the taper causes it to lock in and continue to have the lockup when the gun closes. You can create the most incredible machine in the world with robots, and you can have Tesla and Elon Musk develop all this stuff for you.
I want to see the Elon Musk shotgun.
The
I think
Elon
that'd be
Musk
quite
shotgun.
cool.
At the end of the day, if there's not handwork and a fine shotgun, it'll show. These are barrels waiting to go on for, there's deep hole drilling here. There's a machine making barrels. It'll make the long barrels too. It'll drill a blind hole all the way through.
That is quite smart. Most people just buy in barrel blanks.
Yeah.
It's nice to see someone actually doing it.
Yeah. But it's very interesting how a deep hole drill is done.
Obscenely expensive tool.
Yeah, but you know, they last forever. You just got to get them out to send them out to El Dorado to have them sharpened. So basically how this machine works, it's hollow.
Yep.
And then through pressure, let's just say 900 pounds per square inch of pressure, comes out the other side. That pressure makes this rod very stiff.
Yep.
And through these two holes, it blows the oil and the chips while it's cooling the tip out through the V-way guide because it's a blind hole.
That is awesome.
Because the chips can't fall out through there is no other side to the hole.
Yep.
So you're blasting oil to make the shaft rigid. You're spraying oil in the tip to keep the cooling, and then it's coming back through the V-way guide and coming out through the hole that has not come out the other side yet.
Awesome. So these are about to go off and be honed.
Yeah, these will actually get honed on top of that, but it's pretty good on one.
It's not bad off of one pass.
Yeah.
It wouldn't pass proof, but a lapping and it'll be bang on.
Yeah.
And that knocks in the thread for the choke at the same time.
No, that'll be a different operation altogether.
Okay. So
The reaming will be reaming the chamber in, putting the choke in, and lapping it out will be all different
and
operations.
tapering the outside, that's another operation.
That's a
again.
lot. That's what we saw way back down
So yeah,
there.
this goes like 4 machines.
Probably more now.
Wow, it's pretty cool.
Probably more than now.
So where this factory makes so many different guns, all on the same production lines, there was something fascinating around every corner. For me, coming from the UK, where health and safety is king, I had genuinely forgotten what life was like before we were all babied by the state. So to watch people just going about their business without unnecessary barriers was nice to see. Unbeknown to me before organising this trip was that under the same roof was 3 companies. Connecticut Shotgun, Galazan, and Standard Manufacturing. The latter is responsible for this, the DP-12, which is actually the best known gun made in this facility. That is why there is such an array of guns lying around, from humble pistols all the way up to the custom work.
Under this same building is Standard Manufacturing. That is the affordable guns that they build. They start about $400, and they're probably most famous for this, the DP-12, that's been in movies. It is a side-by-side pump action. You can load up both mags. I presume you can also load up just the one if you feel the need. And it's unnecessarily cool. You have a QR code for the manual, just in case, because trying to figure out how to load this in my head is quite simple. Just load it from the back and then pump and go. The 45-degree battle sights. I mean, I have no idea how reliable one of these is. In my head, this is one of those guns that's basically impossible to regulate and probably would cost $3,000 or $4,000 to get it where it needed to be. But that's probably not where the market is. Because, realistically, it just looks badass, doesn't it? Like,
This is for Dan.
double the freedom.
This is Dan's gun.
When they finally say you're only allowed 20 guns, this is 2 in 1.
we make high-grade guns.
Yes.
And then we used to go to this thing called the SHOT Show.
Yes.
And the SHOT Show has Glocks and all this stuff, right? So I bring guns like this, and I lay them across my table, and there's everybody just walking by. Nobody's even paying attention to these. Even if a guy casually walks up, oh, I can't afford something like this. And then everybody's going to the Glock booth. Everybody's going to the Smith & Wesson booth. Everybody's going to every other booth. And I said, I make just really great, nice guns, and everybody just walking to these $300 or $400 plastic guns.
So you thought?
So I thought we should make guns people actually buy. Where's this conversation going is when you see the machines out there, people are not really concerned of the parts they're making. It's not because they just don't care, it's because the same level of attention is given to every gun.
They're just doing their job, right? Yeah.
They're just doing their job.
It's a gun factory.
Right. And the thing of it is to make very expensive guns, we all agree you need really good machines. We've got the machinery, we've got the people, we've got the resources, we're just not making the stuff that yeah. And to be perfectly frank with you, if we didn't make the tactical stuff and the 1911s and all this stuff, we'd be very struggling to we wouldn't be able to make the Grand Americans and the Foxes and the RBLs and the, so pretty much all the overhead's paid for with the consumer commodity guns.
So these are your cheap guns. What do the guns start for made in this factory?
$400. These can go anywhere from $400 to $1,200 depending on the circumstances in the world. These are about $1,200. These are like $600. And I also make handguns. I make a full Damascus handgun.
The 45-degree battle sights are quite smart.
Yeah, it's just hard to shoot like, you can't shoot that thing in skeet or something like that. It's just to make a long story short, if you're in the gun industry, make this stuff. This is what
it's not fun.
People want.
It doesn't matter what people want. There's an onus on a gun maker making traditional and cool, beautiful guns to continue making them.
I got it. We're an interesting. We're like a tale of two cities here. These are the best of times. These are the worst of times.
Welcome to one of the strangest rooms at the factory. This is where all of the metal finishing is done.
We've got blacking over there, anodization over here, case color hardening over there, bead blasting over. This is like the finish room, if you like.
This is a process as old as guns themselves, of course, case color hardening. Before we invented super steels and modern hardening techniques, they took a low-grade steel part, put them in a mix of bone and leather charcoal, and got them very hot. Once they were up to temperature, they were then quenched, leaving the surface of the metal hardened. The byproduct of which was the well-known finish that we love today.
The colorings that you don't want to do too much of one. The one of them gets more on the bluish and one more on the pinkish side.
Yeah. So you're looking for the perfect color, and the mixes have you've learnt the mixes.
Regardless of which hat they have on, these guys never stop innovating. One of the latest releases is the G1 that I was lucky enough to shoot at Orvis Sandonona.
A G1 is a sporting gun. It looks a bit like a Krieghoff, but what we've done different with the Krieghoff is we've put the rim on there instead of the Krieghoff to really get a good seal every time on the gun. The frame is made out of stainless steel.
Okay.
The advantage of stainless steel, the density of stainless steel is much greater than that of steel, so that puts all the weight between your hands.
How much is it?
About $6,000 now.
$6,000.
Yeah.
And that comes with that wood.
Well, maybe a
That
little
sort of
bit.
grade.
Well, yeah, I'm going to charge extra for wood. I'm charging extra for, kind of.
If you actually want it to look nice. And this is a new product.
Right.
Who comes up with all your designs?
We design all the stuff internally, besides the people that we have shooting guns, and we have a lot of shooters here that do a lot of sporting clays, trap, and skeet and so forth. And we also have engineers here, and so a mix. It kind of overlaps one another.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of creative people here, and a lot of people that enjoy the sport.
How long does it take from start to finish to come up and build one of these from an idea to this?
From the inception, it probably takes a year.
Okay. And you put it through a few tests and see what it's like, and it's nice to see something different.
And it's all built here in the United States. Yeah, eventually we hope to get these guns out to the UK and to Europe and so forth. For our tactical stuff, we go through distributors. Basically, 6 or 8 distributors cover every gun shop between Hawaii and Maine and Alaska and Florida. So the 6 big, for the tactical stuff, we kind of go through distributors because it's high value. But the G1s, for the Connecticut shotgun end of the business, the G1s, that all goes, that's all sold discreetly through, you know, somebody calls up and they get someone in our call center.
Yeah.
And we'll walk them through the process. Here's the wire EDM room, all the precision cuts.
Very smart process.
We have 2 kinds of EDM machines here. We have the wire cutting EDMs and then the die sink machines, which these are. Those are Fox frames.
A lot of processes goes into making one of these things,
Yeah.
doesn't it? Do you guys build anything else in the factory? It's just guns.
Just pretty much guns.
Just guns.
That keeps us busy.
At what point legally do you have to stamp it with a serial number?
Once 80%, when the receiver's 80%, when the firing pins, and this is 80%. At this point, it's already being documented somewhere. The problem is you got a lot of unscrupulous people that kind of circumvent it every step of the way, so there's checks and balances in place to avoid people taking guns with you know, you see the whole thing now with ghost guns and everything like that. We talked about, remember the broaching machine? Mm-hmm. Here we wire EDM to magazine well in it. And if you remember that big fortune that I threw back into the pile? It's the same gun right here.
Just gone through a few hours of machining.
Yeah.
You use a lot of smaller machines as opposed to other factories. There's a big machine that does a load. You've got a lot of smaller machines that do processes along the line. Is that a conscious choice or?
Pretty much. We have kind of the whole factory broke up into work cells.
Yep. There is logic to the
whether it's big or small, I don't know, but that's just kind of what works for us. Now, up until this point, we've seen, and we've pretty much half a day at least, we've spent the whole time just going and seeing
CNC machines.
CNC machines making parts, indiscriminately, parts, and everybody was in disbelief that they couldn't understand. So some of these parts go into $200,000 guns, some of these parts go into $2,400 guns. To that end, here we have one of the West kind of guns is the Single-Action Revolvers.
Iconic American thing.
The 1873 Single-Action Revolvers. Here they're engraved.
And that is predominantly laser on.
Yeah, it's laid out and now it's going to be all completely hand chased. Like for example, there you can see this all been done by hand. This spot right here already.
And how much would something like that retail for?
About $3,500. So the kind of off the production line, off the manufacturing area of the material, the parts. Here is one of the nodes that comes off of kind of all the manufacturing, and this is the first assembly area where you have gunsmiths. And this particular woman here, what she does is she does all the polishing.
How long have you guys been making this one for?
Oh, about 3 years now.
Nice.
Definitely quality gun. Everything handmade, everything hand touched.
How long does it take you to put one of these together? Are you just assembling or?
Oh yeah, right now I'm just finally assembling. I have a few more, honestly, maybe 15 to 20 minutes. You want to take your
knock
time,
one
though?
together?
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, you gotta take your time though. You don't want to scratch it.
This will then get boxed up.
Oh yeah, could be like.
But you still have to time it and do all this other things to it too. That's where the magic.
You get the glory of bringing it together. Yeah. Do you ever think you make too many models of guns?
We're just warming up.
It's insane. Like you make what? A dozen different pistol types?
I see it from a whole different perspective.
Oh yeah.
I've been here for 22 years. Every year, like the G1, we've been talking about the G1 for, it's probably been 5 years we've really been talking about it, but you know, we work out a little bit here. We've got probably like 10 different guns we're working on here and there. And one may come into fruition this year, but after 20, for example, I've been here for 22 years. After 22 years, having all these models of guns is not really a lot of guns.
Yeah, it's just you know, you look at other manufacturers and no one else does that. And that's not a bad thing, it's just more of an observation.
What I would almost be afraid of is a company, and there's a lot of them out there, that strictly make AR-15s. Because that business is up and that business is down. What do they do when business is very soft?
Go on holiday.
Yeah, we've got options. We can switch back to single actions or 1911s.
So you guys are constantly.
Yeah, we're always constantly
doing something.
always constantly something going on here. Always. And I think that's what really stimulates the new products, the development, the creative ideas. They're always doing, it's kind of like, take for example, Cosworth or Formula One teams. They're always coming out with, you know, the car they're racing in 2022 is going to be a completely different car that they're going to be racing in 2027.
This year, between race 1 and race 5, we've seen 5 different cars almost. Like, they're changing so fast.
We're, in a sense, kind of have that mindset here. This is an AR-15. We make AR-15s from scratch. I know you guys aren't here to see AR-15s.
You're buying forgings in and then finishing them.
We're finishing the forgings. Most of the guys in the United States aren't doing it this way. They're buying a finished lower and upper and the components and putting it together. So they're shopping around. When you buy an AR-15 for $499 or $600 US, it's like the same 4 guys are making the lowers at the lowest price for everybody. So instead of having these machines generating heat and noise and having, you know, technical people making these, everybody's just buying everything from everyone else and finding the cheapest price they can get their gun for. Our AR-15, on the other hand, is completely made from a forging in-house. The uppers, the lowers, you know, everything's ensured to fit, the finish, and also even the color of the anodization is exactly the same because it's all done in-house. Very few companies can boast that they make the complete gun in-house. You may have noticed when you load a magazine into an AR-15, when you load a magazine into it, it goes into a square hole. Yep. You might have asked yourself, how does a square pocket, this rectangle hole, how is it put in there? There's 2 ways of doing it. We do them both here. We do it with a 4-foot broach. Yep. And basically what you do... Serious. Yeah, it's got a big motor behind it and a big hydraulic ram. And what basically is you put the receiver in there and the broach pulls it through. And if you look at these teeth, every set of, it's like a medieval torture device. Every one of these teeth is just offset by a fraction of a thousandth of an inch. And as it pulls out, the teeth get bigger and bigger and bigger. And by the time the thing is pulled, the machine has pulled the broach 4 feet through it, you've gone from a shape that was not the shape of the magazine to a finished shape when it gets to the other end. That's the first step in greatness.
What is, we'll put that into context. What is the first step in greatness?
Making great products. Having the foundation of it.
Okay.
Next was the sanding and polishing, which had an enviable amount of equipment to hand. The juxtaposition between the quality of guns that they work on seemed strange to me at first.
It's all the whole assembly area.
But the more workers I met and saw working on guns, the more normal it felt.
There's all the single actions. Here, all the, you know, this is just all the assembly stuff here. Yeah, we're making pallets by pallets and pallet loads of these guns all day.
This could be the most American shotgun ever. It's a Connecticut shotgun AH Fox 911 exhibition grade. Let me draw your attention to a number of things. Firstly, I've never shown a Fox on the channel before, and it's kind of bizarre that there's no draw or second thump or anything on the back. That's because it's all locked up through this little bar here, which is, I mean, it's going to be plenty strong enough. It's just a little bizarre. What that does allow is a very, very shallow action, even in the 12 bore, which is cool, 12 gauge. This is a 410, so that doesn't look like a particularly 410-y frame. You have 2 US flags on the top, enameled in. I think that's really cool. I probably live to regret that, but it's just nice to see something a little different. The cross flags are smart. Statue of Liberty, it's a map of America. I'm right there. You have the Twin Towers on the bottom, and the New York skyline on the side there. This is a very special gun. The carving, the wood, everything about this is just a bit different, and just does go to show these guys can make some really wild stuff. You do just stock guns, or is everything you build for a customer?
No, I build stock guns as well. For example, we make a gun called the Revelation, and that gun, you could have any way you want it as long as there's 12 different flavors to it.
I cropped this out because this is one of the coolest things I've seen inside a gun. You do that just because? Is that a customer asked you to do once you make a demo?
it was just something to see, to really push the envelope of the gun maker's art. You know, that's not what everyone's getting. Nobody's getting rubies and sapphires inside their gun. They're getting pretty much this. Look at how perfect that is there.
And all you need is a handy biro.
And you have to really look close to see it. But that's how you just unscrew the locks, and you know, the gun comes completely apart. You can clean it, and once it's
All back in.
all back in, you can't really. I mean, if the light hits it just right, you can see the hidden fasteners. But you know, we're bringing all the greatest ideas we've seen in guns into guns that normal people, shooting enthusiasts, can afford.
So this is a plastic machine.
Yeah, we injection mold our own parts here. For a revolver we make, there you go.
Thank you very much. What are these? For the switch gun.
These are the handles for the switch gun.
The switch gun is a fold-out 2.2 Magnum revolver that fits right in your pocket, yet still has a usable grip and a half-decent trigger. It's cool, it's $449, and I wish I could have one.
I mean, it's really hard to convey quite how big this place is. You might think that this video is giving you any sense of the scale. We've been walking around here for an hour and a bit and haven't been in the same place. We've been to some gun makers. I've never been, this is a gun factory. This is a serious factory. You know, there's pallets of black guns just rolling out the door. This is insane. Just walked through from the finishing room, and just walked into another huge finishing room. There's a guy filing up a set of barrels. It's just cool. This is really, really cool.
You got a revelation here. He's polishing the frame.
So every part then comes in here and gets fitted and filed up by hand.
This is now we're talking about the Purdy and the Howland, and that's what it'll sit here and work on it until it's exactly right. The barrels and the action are joined together.
A little piece of your life for sale. How much floor space is here?
100,000 square feet.
100,000 square feet.
Yeah. Well, you've walked every one of them. You've walked every one of them.
And do you work in like a batch unit? So it's a batch of 5, batch of 10, batch of 20?
Yeah, batch of 1.
I mean, that's just
Depends. It depends on the workstation.
Okay.
You know, some guns I may sell 100 guns a year. Some guns I may sell 2 guns a year.
This is a 2.2 LR double rifle.
The Model 21.
How much does it sell for?
Well, about $25,000.
Just because it's such a pig to make.
Yeah, I make 2 a year.
This is about to have its ribs laid on. We talked about the Edm right at the beginning. That is laser welding the rib, and this is soft soldering.
You just solder that in there. You can do it right now? Watch him do it.
Oh, this is going to be cool.
There we go.
Most shotgun barrels are constructed of multiple components, and as such, the two tubes must be supported together somehow. The A10 is welded, the G1 has a barrel hanger, but this little beauty is soldered in the traditional way.
What he's doing, he's putting the bottom rib on, and that's an integral part of the barrel assembly, and the barrels have been regulated. Underneath there's regulation blocks that were put in place, and now he's going to come in with a torch and braze soft solder the rib into place. This is a system that hasn't changed in 150 years. You're going to put the wedges behind there, and now these wedges are going to push the rib onto the surface so they can't go.
Yep.
It's going to really force them on there, which you're going to do in just a second.
Once the tubes are regulated, ribs are soldered into place, the excess solder is cleaned up, and the barrels are blued. For a strong joint, the gap from barrel to rib must be minimal, and so hand fitting is required. There were 2 rooms left on today's tour. The first was the Engraving Room, where all of the laser work is done. The simplicity of this setup was surprising, given the quality of laser engraving on their guns. And the room where all the stocks are oiled or lacquered.
This is where people come to rub the wood.
Yeah.
That's good. Is there a lock on the door?
In the morning there is.
And so that was that. It's now 3 months later, and I'm still processing the experience. This factory, and indeed this gunmaker, is like no other. I had a lot of fun that day, and at Orvis testing out the 8N and the G1. But now I can't wait to come back and try some of their less sensible offerings. Guys, thanks for watching, take care, and as Shane would say, shoot standard.